Happy 4th of July. I tell you what, I love a 3-day weekend because back when I was in the active service, I would usually make it a 4-day weekend just because, you know what, when you're deployed 6 months out of the year and you're always working, man, getting a 4-day weekend to spend time with your family is so important. So I hope everybody gets at least 3 days with their families and enjoys this great holiday weekend where we celebrate our amazing, beautiful, best country on the planet, best country ever created. All right, let's get into this. I got a couple of really good stories to share. One about a first-time home buyer and another about this great new bridge loan product that I want to talk to you about. So without further ado, let's get into the housing market update. All right, prices are steady. They're so close to going down, but they're not because there is still overall a lack of supply, although in certain areas there is certainly an abundance of supply. Inventory is up. Rates went up this week. Not a lot, but this was a week where we expected rates to go down and they didn't. So we'll get into that a little bit here later. The headline news this week was Jobs Week largely was a disappointment. We'll get into that. The rates are up, but not much. And then again, I want to talk to you about this bridge loan that we have for builders and flippers that I think is a great product. And if you are one of those people, it is a product that you really should take advantage of. All right, let's get into the jobs report. ADP employment report. This is a private sector jobs report. You look at this chart, all right? It wasn't a 33,000 gain. It was a 33,000 person loss in private sector jobs. All right, it was well below the expected increase of 95,000. And this is the first drop that we have had since March of 2023. And you can see small and medium companies downsize. But, in large companies, they increased by 30,000. But I tell you what, every week I'm seeing a large company, whether it's Amazon or Walmart, laying off large numbers of people. So, even this report, I question, but still, a negative report amongst, it's really been over 2 years since we've had a negative report. And then, you know what? Here's the other thing. Pay's dropping as well. All right. Across the board, annual pay increase from 4.5 down to 4.4, and then job changers from 7% down to 6.8%. So with this report, we should have seen a drop in interest rates, but actually they were kind of flatlined. There wasn't a lot of movement that day. I think there was really most of the anticipation on the Thursday report, which was the BLS Jobs Report. We'll get into that right now. The jobs report, the Bureau of Labor Statistics jobs report, this thing has been off and 180 degrees out from the ADP Jobs Report more often than not. And yet again, that happened. In June, we had June job growth exceeded the 110,000 person forecast and was up at 147,000. Folks, that is still not a great number. That's not a big number, but it was above what the expectations were. And actually, typically, what we see is negative revisions to the previous 2 months, but we actually had a positive revision of 16,000. So not a very good report from the business sector. But the household survey actually showed unemployment dropping from 4.2. And remember, it was almost 4.3. It was at 4.24. If it would have been at 4.25 in May, we would have been at 4.3. Well, it dropped down to 4.1% this month. And you look at where the job gains, let's look at where the job gains were. Man, they were in education. All right, 63,000 jobs created in education. Folks, we're in the summer. Who the hell's starting their job in June? Again, it's numbers like these that lead me to not believe the BLS Jobs Report. It's just not accurate. So to me, again, not a good report, although I will say the one positive sign in this report, wage growth slows. And is that really a positive sign when wage growth is slowing for Americans? But in this instance, yes, it is a good sign. A good part of the job report, it just shows wage inflation is slowing. We look at the other big employment report that came out, and that is the initial claims. Initial claims still elevated, not hugely elevated, but elevated. Continuing claims, though, we are inching closer and closer to 2 million people who are receiving continuing unemployment insurance. 3 reports that came out this week. You have a stinker. BLS Jobs Report showing a strong job economy, unemployment down, and then you have increasing continuing claims. What's the Fed to do? What is the Fed going to do? The Fed is not meeting next week. The Fed is meeting the following week. And if we had a jobs report that showed unemployment going up, the decision by the Fed to lower the Fed funds rate would be very easy. Now, this jobs report, the Fed has an excuse not to lower the Fed funds rate. But the Fed has also said they're not really focusing so much on unemployment. Their biggest concern and the biggest reason they have not lowered the Fed funds rate has been inflation. And the fears that inflation is going to be driven up by tariffs, something that we have not seen yet. So this report could cause the Fed to not drop the Fed funds rate. It could, and we'll see this next week. We'll see what the Fed is going to say, what economists are going to say about the Fed. Most of them are going to say, yeah, there's a 100% chance that the Fed's not going to drop the Fed funds rate. And they may be right. They may be right. But 2 out of 3 of these jobs reports that we received this week showed a contracting economy. Right? They show fewer job hires, a negative on ADP. That's pretty damning for unemployment. So at some point, the BLS will correct itself. Again, it's a government report. Can't trust everything you get from the government. This one has been proven to be inaccurate oftentimes. Let's look at VA rates. Again, we started the week at about 6.22 for VA rates. They went up. The first 2 days of the week, Monday, Tuesday, were good days. We saw rates going down. But then based on the last 2 jobs reports that came out, they went up. So we're just slightly above 6.25. Still lower than where we have been for really much of 2025. But not where we want to be and really where we should be. So what is going to impact VA rates this week or mortgage rates this week? There's not a lot of economic news coming out next week in the form of a jobs report or inflation report. But there is going to be a lot of economic news. We just had the big, beautiful bill or big, ugly bill, depending on what side of the aisle you're on, came out. That's going to create some short-term churn in the markets on Monday, Tuesday. But we also have the promise of more tariff agreements, more trade agreements with other countries. We just signed one with Vietnam last week, and Secretary Bessent is saying that there are 3 or 4 that they're ready for the president to sign. And when those happen, I think you expect you will see a positive bounce in the economy. Maybe not in mainstream media, but in the economy. So not a lot of movement next week, but any movement that we do see is going to be short-term and really reactive, not proactive. All right, so what does this mean? Well, as a buyer, mortgage apps were flat last week. Whether it was purchasers or refinancers, mortgage apps were flat. Inventory is still high. I've had 6 contracts come in the last week and a half. Actually, 5 of 6 have had credits at or above 4% seller credits, which with VA you can do. All right, there's one lender out there that basically turned down greater than 4% credits on a VA loan. Well, they said that the VA won't allow it. Well, this big veteran-centric company doesn't understand the VA guidelines. And actually, we're at about 6% on credit from this seller, and we're able to use all of it. We're able to pay down debt. We're able to buy down the rate. So, be careful who you work with. All right, who you work with matters. Some lenders can do it. Some lenders can't. Some lenders understand the VA regs. Some don't. And so, really, just a great week and a half as far as my buyers getting great deals. And it's not anything that I've done necessarily, except the education piece. Some great realtors that I'm working with, helping my clients get these incredible deals. So, let me tell you about this right now. I had a signing yesterday with a 24-year-old buyer. It almost brought me to tears. He actually went into contract while he was stationed in the Middle East, and he was in Qatar or Qatar. It depends on who you are and how you speak, but he was in Qatar. He just left right before Iran bombed or attempted to bomb. No, they didn't attempt. They actually did bomb Qatar, but he bought his home from afar. He arrived on island on July 2nd, and he signed yesterday for his home. And I was giving him a ride. He doesn't even have a car yet. And so I was giving him a ride back to the Gateway Inn. And, I was asking him, hey, what do your parents think about you buying? He's like, man, my mom is so excited for me. I'm buying a home before she bought a home. And I'm like, wait a second. You're the first person in your family to buy a home? He's like, yeah, man, I grew up poor. And I tell you what, He inspired me so much. And the reason he inspired me, not just because he bought a home, but because he changed his circumstance. All right. And he's changing the circumstance for his family moving forward whenever he has a family. And you know what? He's going to inspire somebody in his family to buy a home. And it's not a big home. He's not buying his forever home. He's buying a $300,000 condo. And his payment is going to be less than his BAH. All right, for the next 6 years, it'll be less than his BAH. And guess what's going to go up over the next 6 years? His BAH. Because guess what? This young man, he's going to get promoted. Why do I say that? I look at him. Great credit score. How do you have a great credit score if you don't have any history in your family of great credit? All right, most people who buy homes have good credit. How did he do that? Man, I tell you what, that is somebody who's taken hold of the American dream, is making it happen. He's also serving our country, which is super impressive. But I tell you what, man, that is the reason, this young man is the reason why I do what I do, man. I love the stories of people who make something of themselves and are moving forward. They're not being distracted by the chaff of saying, oh, it's a bad time to buy a home, or it's, you know, buying a home is silly. You should just rent. You should just go into government housing. Man, I'm so impressed by this young man. And I just wanted to talk to you about that as we go into this 4th of July weekend. All right, so, and for all you other home buyers, man, there are some great down payment assistance programs for first-time home buyers right now. Again, you ain't buying a single-family home with that. Not in Hawaii anyway, but you're going to get that first home. I just had a wedding last week. One of my past clients who just bought his forever home for him and his family, he was talking to me about his first home that he bought, a condo that he owns and that he's making money on, passive income on every single month. He wouldn't have bought that home last year if he hadn't got that first condo several years ago. So it just goes to show, you know, the key is to buy a home. All right. You're not buying your forever home, the first one, you're buying a home. And right now, I have this great conventional 1% down. The other 2% is being paid by the lender, all right, to buy a home. Again, you're talking less than a $400,000 home. But for most first-time home buyers, you know what? That's the price range you should be in, all right? You just get your foot in the door. You just get started. And in this market, all right, I just had a $400,000 contract accepted yesterday. The clients, they're the first-time home buyers, $400,000, getting a $24,000 credit. They're not paying anything out of pocket except their home inspection. They're going to buy down their rate. They're going to pay off some debt. They're going to move in their first home at $400,000. And their mortgage payments are going to be less than their BAH. Don't believe the hype. Don't get distracted by the chaff. You can be a first-time home buyer. So I'm going to end it with this on this 4th of July weekend. Man, the Declaration of Independence, the greatest document ever written in the United States, maybe in the world. And what a Declaration of Independence guaranteed, all right? From our Creator, 3 inalienable rights, all right? The right of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's what the Declaration of Independence says. We are given 3 inalienable rights from our Creator. Life. What is life? Life is health, all right? That is our right. That's what this country should guarantee. All right, liberty. Liberty is freedom. All right, how do you get freedom? Well, I tell you what, you don't get freedom by being eye deep in debt. All right, that's not freedom, that's slavery. All right, slavery to the credit card, slavery to the banks. But freedom. And then the pursuit of happiness. You know, it's kind of interesting. The Declaration of Independence didn't guarantee happiness, but the pursuit of happiness. And I wonder, how do you pursue happiness? Is happiness something you pursue, or is happiness something that you do? Now, I know a lot of people, all right, who are not happy. I know a lot of successful people who are unhappy. I know a lot of people who aren't necessarily successful, or they're not rich, but they're still happy. All right, happiness is a choice that we make. And we are in a country that gives us that opportunity to make that choice on whether or not we're happy. We can watch the news, we can go on the wah-wah bus and complain, but you know what? Man, nobody's stopping you from changing your life. And if you're waiting for the government to change your life, man, that's the wrong thing to do, all right? You make your own happiness. Your happiness is a choice. I am happy every single day. I don't always have a great day, but I'm happy every single day because I have the freedom to be happy, all right? I have my health. all right, which is guaranteed by the Declaration of Independence. All right, again, it's a choice. Happiness is a choice. I choose to be happy every day. Not everything goes right. Trust me, not everything goes right. I wish it did, but it doesn't. And you know what? When it doesn't, it just makes me stronger. All right, it makes me resolve to be more successful or more happier. Happiness is a choice. All right. Hey, I brush it off and move on. And hopefully whatever happened that wasn't necessarily what I planned helps make me a better person. All right. So anyway, think about that this 4th of July weekend. And before we sign off, I want to talk about this one loan product that I got. Love this loan product. All right. This is a bridge loan for flippers and for builders. It's called the Smart Move. And what this bridge loan allows you to do, allows you to refinance out of a construction loan in 3 to 5 days. No waiting 30 to 60 days, 3 to 5 days, people. You can pull equity out of your home using your appraised renovation value. All right, you can cash out up to 65% loan to value of your new property value. And you can reset your terms with rates from right around 10%, which are going to continue to go down. And let me give you a quick example. All right, we have a guy got a construction loan on a home, $600,000. The completed appraised value is $1.2 million. All right, he was able to do a bridge loan of $780,000. Paid off his construction loan and now has $180,000 that he can use to buy that next home. All right, to continue that conveyor belt of homes being built and flipped. All right, close this loan in 4 days, folks. All right, so why would you do this instead of traditional financing? Well, one, I'm not using your income to verify, all right? I'm using the value of the property. I'm not using tax returns. This is property-based underwriting, all right? The loan is based on the value of the property. You get 12-month terms, all right, which allows you to plan your exit. So we're talking like 12 months, interest only, allowing you to plan that exit. It's a great product. And here's the thing, there's no prepayment penalty, which is important because most builders are going to refinance or sell within 12 months. So what you can do with this bridge loan is use it as a strategic tool to help you continue building, to help you continue to build your wealth on that conveyor belt. All right. This is the refinance in the BRRRR method for all you fixers, flippers, and builders. So great loan product. Please, if you have any questions on it, don't hesitate to reach out. I'd love to help you out. I'd love to answer your questions. And again, 3 to 5 days, man. This is a quick turn product. All right. We're using the value of the property, not your income taxes and not your income verification. All right. That's all I have for you. You guys have a great week. Aloha. Happy 4th.